Well, Jenna, thank you so much for joining me today. It's so good to see you. And I love this topic. Thank you for coming on my podcast. This is pretty new to me. So doing a podcast, having a camera, having audio, I've been experimenting with this. And I've been getting inspired by different people. And one of my favorite things is one of my favorite podcasters is a guy called Mark Boris, who does a podcast in Australia called Straight Talk. And it's awesome because it's straight talk. Like, he just gets to the point and he asks questions and he interviews people that do interesting things. And so as we were getting this season ready, I was like, let's talk to someone about all things health, nutrition, lifestyle and faith, but efficiency, energy, and I think my life, I'm kind of going in that direction. So thank you. Thanks for coming on.
I am so excited to be here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hide my super enthusiasm because I think this is such a great topic.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to bring it into the lens of faith as well.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's important.
Yeah, and it's you're a bit of I don't want to use the word celebrity, but I'm reaching for other words. But like you're kind of you got a following. You have an audience, which I love. You have a business called Make Healthy Easy. Tell me a bit about that. Tell us a bit about your world.
Yeah. So I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I've been practicing since 2005. I'm also a certified specialist in sports dietetics. So I initially went into nutrition to work exclusively in sports because I just love the idea of performance. And so now I have a business that encompasses Make Healthy Easy. I have 2 other brands in there as well, Off-Season Athlete, which is targeted to teen athletes. And then I'm launching a brand new component called Rhythm Sports Nutrition, which is going to be for more high-level elite athletes. But within all those realms, I do a few different things. I do counseling and coaching with individuals and groups. I do consulting with companies and businesses around nutrition, health, fitness, education. And then I also do communications work, which includes my websites and social media. And when it comes to what Make Healthy Easy means, it's been a journey, but really the idea came out of working with so many different types of people and giving them all the same, life-changing, super important, this is what you need to do information when it comes to nutrition and health. And they all did something different with it.
Yeah.
It motivated them differently. One person does this, another person does that, someone's not motivated at all. And I just realized something is going on here besides just equipping people with information.
Right.
And so I realized that there's a lot going on there. And one thing I commonly hear in my practice is, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I like to say, I specialize in figuring out what's going on between those 2 things.
Yeah.
So I really take a holistic approach.
Hence the name.
Yes.
Make Healthy Easy.
Yes, a holistic approach and really treating someone as an individual, recognizing each person has different motivation, different desires for what they want in their health and with their bodies. We look at personality, how that plays a role into it. And so I want people to build their healthy lifestyle that helps them be a confident eater, a flexible eater, because I think that's really important. And ultimately, my tagline is I want to help people learn to fuel for energy, listen to their bodies or trust their bodies, and live with purpose. Because that's what I think health is for.
That's amazing. How did you get into all this? What's the, I love, like when I talk to people, I love to understand their stories and I love to hear the genesis of the starting time, the starting point and how things were kind of birthed. But where did all this come from? Were you a student athlete, or how did it sort of all come to start?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 key pieces of what started my story in nutrition. One is I was an athlete. I played volleyball and was really serious about playing at the college level. And at one point in my junior year, worked with a really great trainer who sat me down and taught me how to eat. Not to diet, but just to perform.
Cool.
And it was not crazy. It was simple things, and it made an enormous difference. Going from eating M&Ms after school to eating a legit snack that actually gave me sustenance to make it through a whole practice. So that sparked an interest. The other piece is my dad's a marriage and family therapist. And so I grew up in a home that we knew a lot about the mind and personality and relationships, and just that intrigued me. I love that. He was an entrepreneur as well, so that was a piece of it. So I originally went into college thinking I was going to work in disordered eating. And I can't remember what exactly started that, but it was a piece of those and just wanting people to eat with freedom and joy in their life.
Yeah.
And I took my first nutrition class and it like blew my mind. I was like, wait, this is a science, there's chemistry, like this is incredible. So I switched my major to nutrition, my minor to psychology, and that kind of set me on my path. And then I love sports, and that was a really exciting place to get in. But then along the way, the Lord said, well, this is a piece of what you do, but it's not the only thing you do as well.
Wow, that's a really cool merging of worlds. You had your influence from your parents. You had your upbringing in sports, volleyball, and then some outside influence through a coach, and you weave that all together, and it's really cool how that started. I think that's amazing, and you made a career out of it. You're very entrepreneurial. It sounds like you've got a pretty good. How long have you been doing it for now?
I became an RD in 2005, so
Okay.
I'm nearing the 20-year mark, which is pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
Pretty crazy.
And it's just you? Do you have staff, or do you just sort of work alone, or do you have people that you contract in? How do you kind of make it all work?
It's tough. There's a lot going on, and sometimes all my worlds converge at one time, which is a lot. But I do have a virtual assistant that I hired last year, someone that the Lord just put in my life when I needed it, and it was the best decision that I ever made.
Yeah.
I wish I'd done it earlier, but it was so wonderful. And I love employing another woman who wants to be with her family as well too. So I think that's really cool. And I would love to employ more people as this thing goes. I've had another dietitian that I've utilized in my practice before that's done parts of nutrition that are not my specialty, and that just kind of ebbs and flows based on what the need is.
Yeah.
But and then the only other position I'm saving is for my husband to be the COO whenever he wants it.
Yeah.
Which is our ongoing joke between us. Although I'm legit, if he wants it, it's his.
And he's amazing. He's been on my podcast last season, actually, which is pretty cool. But I even love that too. Like, he's a high school football coach. He's in sports, and so again, like you see that merging of those worlds and that weaving together, which I think is very, very cool. So it's good to understand that. It's good to understand like your background, where you come from, and bring you to present day. Because all of this as well is not just what you do, it's who you are. Okay, so that's what I love about this conversation. We're going to get to faith. We're going to get to like the real stuff. Not that natural things aren't real, but you know what I'm saying. But like, how does this outwork into your own life as a family? And I think the question within this is like, what does that actually look like in terms of family life for you personally, but also for Brian and the kids? How does that look like in terms of, what does it look like in terms of your not negotiables when it comes to just living, like living your life? Like, what are the things that to you with all this stuff that is your professional life, but in your personal life, what do you must do? What are your must-dos?
All right, well, we'll start there. So I call our must-dos or non-negotiables anchor habits. Okay. So for myself or with anyone I'm working with, eventually through the process, I want people to identify what are the 1 to maybe 3 max things that you consider the anchors to your healthy lifestyle.
Love that.
That no matter what is going on in your life, stress, challenges, ease, whatever, these are the few things that I'm always going to try to pursue. They may look different, but they're vitally crucial. They're the first dominoes that tip to help us always stay connected to what brings us health. And so for me personally, those things are weight training, fruits and vegetables, and sleep.
Wow.
So, and
very different.
Very
things.
different.
Yeah.
Holistic, hopefully. And sleep becomes more and more important as we get older.
Yep.
And I'm sure my husband can tell you I get very cranky when I don't get my sleep. So those are the 3 things that I'm always going to try to pursue in one way, shape, or form. Whether I'm traveling for work, it's football season in our family, it's off season, whatever. That's what I'm going to try to pursue. And one of the things I think is been part of my own personal journey with my family is recognizing, though, how I express and stay connected to healthy living is not necessarily how other people are going to do that as well.
Right.
So specifically with my husband, we are forever, hardest part in our marriage will honestly be food, because we attack it so very differently.
Yeah.
And we have some really fun stories about the first couple of years in our marriage
Yeah.
where we fought more about food than anything else. Because here I am like, of course, why wouldn't we want to eat more vegetables? Like more green, more all this. And he's like, yeah, does it taste good?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care. It's good for you. You know, so just honestly, that was a big piece in my story and being to where I am now of just realizing, like, we both would say health is super important.
Right.
And we would even say eating healthy is important, but we're going to display that very differently. And my way is not necessarily right and his way is not wrong, or vice versa. So that's honestly been a big challenge for me, for myself professionally and personally. You know, I think back in the day, my husband might have said to me, like, I didn't marry you because you're a dietitian. I married you to be my wife.
What a great quote.
You know, so
Yeah.
that is, it's a challenge. And I want to be open about that. I don't have all the answers, and personalities play a big role into that. So there's some things that I've bled over into our family. Those fruits and vegetables, the smoothies, and I even asked my son. I was like, "What would you say is like the thing that we do that's we're always going to do?" And he goes, "Oh, smoothies."
That's awesome.
So I mean, there's simple things like that that I want to make sure we're doing.
Yeah.
But honestly, as a parent too, what I've recognized is my goal is to equip my children to live a healthy lifestyle when they're adults. I can't control everything. I learned that real fast.
Yeah.
I can't control it. I can't keep this out and this out. Like, it's going to happen.
Yep.
And Brian's actually been awesome about just reminding me, like, they need to learn how to deal with these foods. Like, that's important. That's part of the journey.
Yeah.
So really my goal now is to equip them. And my big goals for my family is to be open and adventurous eaters. I think the more open you are to different types of foods, the more successful you are in life and in eating.
That's awesome.
I want to equip them with skills to prepare their own food, which they don't love that, but I'm committed.
Yes.
I'm committed.
Yep.
I want them to do that. And then I want them to know how to listen to their bodies and to do things that care for it. And ultimately, because those bodies are meant to do work that God's called us to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the anchor habit, like just even the wording, the language around that, I think is really, really good, because when we're teaching the next generation, like, they're not going to remember everything, but they will remember the main things, hopefully. I think that's a really good way of putting it, anchor habits. So shifting now to maybe someone who's watching this, listening to this, that wants to make a change. You know, even if it's someone in our church community, which is pretty cool to think that, you know, you're in the congregation and they maybe recognize you and they're listening to this. But what would you say to anyone who, you know, wants to make a change in the right direction? What's your advice to someone in that, you know, that part of their life where they're like, they recognize they need to make a change, but maybe they're not confident that they can do it, or, you know, they're ever going to be Jenna Braddock. But like, what would you say to someone? I'm sure you have clients that are in this category, and you've had clients like this. What would you say to someone who might listen to this?
Well, my answer to this question is really solidified in the past few years, recognizing what is the difference between someone who's successful in making changes that last and someone who's not. And so what I have found through a variety of work that I've done, not all to my own credit for sure, is that the most important place a person can start is, one, identifying their values. What are my core values in my life? And then, am I living those values out? Because a lot of people say, this is important, this is important, this is important, but then when they look at their actions, they're not aligned.
Right.
They're not demonstrating that. And that's not to take you to a place of guilt and shame, but simply to a place of, oh, something's not in alignment. And the reason why that's so important is because health plays a role in us living out our values and having alignment between what we believe and what we do. And I think for a lot of people I work with, they would say, I don't have enough energy to actually invest as a parent or community member. Like, I'm struggling there, or I'm not eating well or I'm not exercising. Like my body's not getting the job done to help me have the energy I need to live out these roles. So if we don't identify that, we don't really know why making a change matters. And then ultimately what I love to help people do is to actually turn that into a purpose statement. Okay, what is God's calling on your life? What are you here to do? And that could incorporate those values within it. Because we need a statement, we need a driving force for you that's going to be able to step toe to toe to all the challenges we're going to face. And I had a client once said that knowing my purpose doesn't necessarily make things easy, but it makes it very clear.
Yeah.
So if I need to eat more vegetables, this is a silly example, and I don't like vegetables, well, if my health is poor and I'm saying I need health to show up as a parent because that's incredibly crucial to me.
Yep.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to figure out here how to eat more vegetables.
Yeah.
So it becomes this driving force, and really our culture deduces health and nutrition down to how do I look? What is this aesthetic, you know? And I get it. That's important.
Yeah.
But that's a motivation that for most people isn't going to last. It's going to crumble at some point, or they're just going to run out of desire. And so we need something much stronger than that. And it also gives you the freedom then to say, well, my body will look what it's going to look, but am I doing the job that I need my body to do?
Yeah.
And then we know we have success. We have a legit measure of success that's going to look different for every single person, but they can wake up each day, realign with their values and purpose, the decisions they need to make, and then execute them in order to be the person that they feel called to be in their life.
Yeah.
That's a very crucial process. Most people don't do that work. You know, they just go straight to, I'm going to cut this out, exercise 20 times a day.
Some diet, yeah.
Yes, and we're not actually addressing the main thing.
That's really good.
The behaviors will come with time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just finished working with a gentleman who, the first time together, you know, had a lot of fear around what to eat, was afraid to gain weight, you know, competent, wonderful, professional man. And he's just like, just tell me what to eat. What can I eat so I don't gain weight? And I'm like, let's back up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the time we were done working, he goes, Jenna, I didn't know what you were doing at first, but I get it now.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much eat this, eat that. It's more, you know what, I said no to this today, and that gave me space and energy for this, which is really important to me. And then that led to me getting a better night's sleep or whatever. So it's this wonderful snowball effect that can happen.
That's really good, because I think that eliminates, taking that approach, eliminates what we see so often in this area of whatever, like health, is all the passing fads and all the things that come along, the TikTok diets, you know, I even remember like early 2000s, some of the diets that came out, and even through church life, people were doing them and talking about them. So can you speak into a little bit of that just for a second, just to take this a little bit further? So how do you avoid becoming a fad person when it comes to this area of health?
Well, I think it's very important to take a long game approach to health, just like with anything. You know, I want to be a better pianist. I want to build a business that lasts. It's a daily decision-making process that builds over time. For some reason, we think health should happen in 21 days.
Yes.
And that's not reality.
Yeah.
You know, and I often have people do two things. Step outside of yourself, pretend you're talking to a loved one like you're talking to yourself,
Right.
and see if the logic plays out. And then two, the other thing I love about being in the sports world is I've often compared people to athletes. It's just so cut and dry in athletics. Like, well, do we need an athlete to perform? Would we ever tell them to do that fasted? Like, go play a 4-hour game fasted. It's a great idea. Well, no, that would be silly. Okay, well, you're showing up for a job you say is super important to you, a family you say, your roles are just as critical to you as an athlete playing a game. Let's eat to fuel your performance in those arenas. There's not a difference. So sometimes that helps clarify that for people. And I teach through the lens of performance, whether that's, you know, your everyday roles, which again, values tell you these roles are critically important. Being a mom to my children is critically important. Being a supportive wife, critically important. So I need to make decisions that are going to allow me to be the best version of myself as often as possible. So flipping that lens around and having a long game. And I want to do that for decades.
Yeah.
You know, even something as simple as we're talking about golf, like I'm learning to play golf, and my husband and I are doing that together so that we can do that till the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so caring for my body, and that's a game that's going to take me 30 years to learn, it feels like.
Yes.
Having a long game view is the right approach. And so the same is true for our bodies as well. And then when it comes to these specific diets, you know, having 20 years of experience now, nearly 20, is wonderful because I've seen so many things come in and out of trend. I've also seen things go through the research rigmarole and things that we thought, oh, that's just a trend, now saying, oh, wait, there's some legitimacy to that.
Yeah.
So now I see them, well, we have tools. We have a whole lot of tools in our toolkit. But we don't start using those tools till we know what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And that's all that work that we talked about. And then we always say, I always want people to decide, is this way of eating going to make your performance suffer or make it difficult for you to have the energy to do the things that matter to you with the people that matter most? Because if it does, it's not sustainable and it's certainly not a good idea.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's how you smooth out the turbulence over the years of all these fads. I love that you mentioned golf. I love golf. You know, I love golf. There's something my dad said to me. He said, learn how to invest and learn how to play golf because when you're old, you'll have to do both. And so I actually took that advice. I started buying stocks when I was like 12 and learning how to play golf. But yeah, I think taking that long-term approach is like, how does this actually become part of my lifestyle? Something else my dad told me, which was pretty cool, was like, don't go to the gym for 2 hours at a time. He said, go every day for 30 minutes. And like, even just that is just, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
It's because it's like, I can do that, but I can't kill myself in a diet for 21 days or whatever, go on some crazy, far reaching idea and then try to still preach on a Sunday. It's like,
yes. That's a big day of performance for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think that will be very helpful because we need to look at the fruit in all these things, the results, and I think if you look at things over the long term, you can see those things. And I love the purpose. So I think that's very helpful. Okay, back to the home. You have 2 sons at home. They're growing boys.
They are growing boys.
I have 2 sons as well. They're growing boys and they eat like crazy. What would you say to a parent that is in a similar situation, that has growing children in that sort of bracket, in the home, every day going to the snack cabinet? You're back solving that to the grocery store. Like, give us some wisdom, on how to do that well.
Yeah, well, the struggle is real.
Yeah, it is.
You need lots of grace. And again, long game approach. Battles or the war. What are we trying to equip the children with so that they can exit? So for me, in our parenting, we are always thinking about how are we preparing you to be an adult and on your own? And this is a piece of this. So one, lots of grace. There is not a one-size-fits-all approach because there are these humans with different perspectives and opinions and preferences.
Yep.
So again, I think about the idea of teaching them the skill of healthy eating, and I want to give credit to my husband as well. He's really helped me realize that for some people it's a skill. Some people it's innate. It's an innate listening to their body and desiring healthy food, and that's like, what do you mean it's hard? Like, it's easy. That's some folks, but for others, that's not the case, and there's everything in between. Yeah. So beginning to kind of engage that and have conversations. I try really hard to keep things positive, and especially about bodies and changing, and because that's happening for many years to come as well. Yeah. But also just engage when they're willing to engage. Giving them opportunities to have full freedom and see what happens, and then let's talk about that. Oh, you don't feel well. What happened? Well, what do you think about the choices you made? Would you do that again? Do you think that's a good choice for you? And then there's opportunities to be like, here's what just happened. We're not doing that again. Yeah. And I think that's opened my mind that there's room for all of the different approaches, and God puts 2 parents together for a reason that have very different perspectives. Yeah. To bring both of those to the table. That's good. Again, I'm not the only right one here. It's 2 people coming together to do that. And And then I think demonstrating it as well. I think about that, what am I demonstrating to my children? And not that I'm perfect or anyone else is, and not to put pressure on, but we're moving into a time with a teenager where actions speak way louder than words.
Yeah.
We're getting there. And so thinking about what am I displaying, and is it something I want them to take with them in some version in the future?
Yeah, that's so good. We're in that situation too. Like we got one great eater and one that's a real challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've had to really try to do through example, through some training, and even just what you're saying is really, really helpful to me, is not accommodating the maybe the poor eater, or and just like praising the one that's eating well, but communicating and trying to figure out like and trying to work through what that looks like, because the end goal, you've done such a good job in the last 20 minutes of talking through what this is all about, which is the end goal to, whether it's for you personally to live the life and be able to do what you're called to do, or for your kids to depart and have the tools and the training. I think you used the word equipping, which is brilliant, to make those decisions themselves. And like I even think about drinking water and staying hydrated. We're a surfing family, so we'll surf every single day, and we're starting to get into that rhythm of talking to our kids about, okay, so we've been out in the sun for the last 3 hours and we've been surfing.
Gulp. Time to drink.
Time to have some water, and so I think even things like that is helpful.
And one other thing that comes to my mind here, and it makes me think, this is why nutrition is both so easy and so hard, is because we know what to do, but the executing it, especially in community or a family unit, it's not always that easy.
Right.
So one of the things that I've started to do is, when I meal plan for the week and we're doing dinners, I try to make sure there's something that everybody would like, varied. And I have meals that I like that my rest of my family does not super care for.
Right.
But it gives us this ability to talk then about, well, hey, one night you may love it, one night I may love it, but we're in a family, so sometimes we're going to do something that somebody else likes. So then we get to teach relationship building as well through the lens of nutrition. And that's been cool, because as they develop that skill and that emotional intelligence, they can see, oh yeah, well, Mom made me tacos on Tuesday. I love tacos. Mom loves fish. I don't want fish. We're having that on Thursday. Well, there's a give and take in a family.
Yeah.
And not only is it nutritious and good to have lots of variety, but it's also about building with somebody else and giving and taking too.
I like that. I love the emotional intelligence piece. Okay, I got a curveball for you.
Okay.
Generational change with nutrition and health. I was a swimmer growing up, and there were certain accommodations that were made for me as an athlete in my family. I would definitely say I was a poor eater in that time.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that in even one of my own children. And I want to be the dad that addresses it. I want to be the parent that, and I think we're doing our best. What would you say to someone, like me, that's seeing the same pattern in a child, and wanting to help them, address them, but first of all, obviously you've got to be aware of it. So I'm aware of it.
Yes, that's good. That's step one.
I'm seeing it. Help me.
Oh gosh, and we have that in our family as well, and I'm sure a lot of people do. And I think there's a piece to that that has to do with personality as well.
Right.
So one, honoring personality, like and who God's made you to be, and identity is a big piece of this. Like, okay, God made you a certain way, and with preferences. I always say the fact that I love Oreos does not make me bad. I'll love Oreos to the day I die.
They're so good,
they're just so good. Double stuff.
Birthday
Brian buys me a
cake
package of Double Stuff once a year, and that's like a love gift. He's been doing that since
Do
college.
you like the birthday cake ones?
I've not tried them. I'm kind of a purist.
They could change your life.
Okay, next podcast.
Bad.
We'll dunk and eat.
Yeah.
So part of it is honoring, because I don't want someone to feel broken because they don't eat this particular way.
Right.
But there's more going on there, as you acknowledge, and it's more the fixed mindset. So I want to help address the mindset more than the preferences almost. So one of the things that I've tried to do is I do not let my children say something's gross or disgusting when it comes to food, especially if they've not tried it.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, no, this is very edible food. It is not gross or disgusting, and someone loves that, and that could be offensive to them, like myself. So we're not going to do that. And we want you to try it. You do not have to like it, but I also say maybe one day you will. You never know. You may like this food one day. And I certainly have examples of that in my life. Maybe you do as well. And so first and foremost, just addressing the fixed mindset. I'm not going to allow my child to have that mindset around food. I can't change your preferences. I can't make you like this food that I like. I'm going to present it in a variety of ways. I'm going to require you to taste just a bite, if that's what it is for the night. And I'm not going to allow you to talk down to that just because you're not comfortable with it. And then once again, it's a long game. And when you're changing something that was a strong force in your own life, it's going to take a lot of time. You're probably going to fail more than you succeed. But again, the goal is, when we have a 22, 23, 24 or older, they're like, oh, I remember I tried this. This makes me think of Dad. I'm going to try it again. Maybe I like it. My mom made, as an example, my mom made spinach salads growing up for dinner. No offense, Mom, but it was gross. I did not like it. But it was something we had occasionally, lots of experiences with it. And then went to college, no thanks on spinach, I'm good. And then later in my adulthood, coming back to that, and be like, oh, it's not bad. Oh, I might like it. Oh, look at all the things you can do with spinach, And so again, 20, 25-year continuum there from start to finish. And that's the goal. I mean, from a research perspective, they say it takes children anywhere from 10 to 15 tries with a food to decide if they actually really like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's going to be with a lot of whole foods, not, processed foods that have flavor enhancements and things like that, that's fine.
Right.
But really appreciating the taste of the food, it's going to take time.
I like that a lot. I think that's helpful because, even being armed with that information, 10 to 15 tries, I think is really good. But I love the idea of approaching the mindset because one of the things I've been doing with my particular one that's difficult is something that my parents, I feel like in that generation never did, was actually share their own struggles with it. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is just to teach my son, be like, hey, this is something that Daddy used to struggle with, and I don't want you to, but I want you to have an open mind. And I actually even just share my own journey with my 9-year-old son. And I need to do more of it, but one example I shared with him recently was I hated vegetables and I would never eat salad. And now I would prefer a salad at a restaurant. I would start that way.
Yeah.
And I'm just like 20 years ago, I would have rather died than have eaten a salad. And so just even sharing that with my 9-year-old, 9 times out of 10, he's just going to be like, yeah, Dad, whatever.
Yeah. But it's a deposit.
Yeah.
It's a deposit in the bank.
I'm thinking about that soon.
Anyone can change.
Yeah, it's like maybe Dad sharing a little bit of vulnerability could be the pathway to some future, because 21, 22, 23, I'd love for him to sort of start to think about that. So that's very cool. All right. About a month ago, we just talked about it before, I did a message and I talked about the 4 different tanks of our lives. You said you loved that message. You were jumping out of your seats. You were like,
Preach.
doing, it was like an NFL game. Tell me about the connection from your perspective. The 4 tanks obviously were physical, which we've been talking about, mental, emotional, and spiritual. I truly believe that they're all connected in some way. I think God created us that holistic way where you can't portion each out and treat it individually. They are connected, and sometimes in the spiritual we see it in the natural and emotional at the soul level. But tell me why you like that message, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on, the body and how it's connected and how you see it that way.
Yeah. Well, so the way I refer to that in my practice is the 4 dimensions of energy, and that actually came out of some work by Dr. Jim Lair and Dr. Jack Gropel at the Human Performance Institute, which is a place that I've been working as a consultant for a long time, so I don't want to take credit for it. But we think of it as physical is the foundation, and it infuses the rest of us with energy. So physical energy is hugely important. And if we don't have physical energy, it's very hard to be spiritually connected, emotionally present, mentally sharp. It's very difficult. So then would be mental energy, emotional energy, and spiritual energy on the top. But then spiritual energy is the force that pushes us through all the other dimensions. And they're interconnected because they rely on each other. And I think what's important to understand is we can be fueled in each of those, and we can be drained in each of those. So for some folks who might struggle with starting healthy lifestyle, they might be in a state where they're constantly mentally or emotionally drained. So when we don't have energy in those departments, it's very difficult to then be like, well, let me work hard in the physical. You know, it just doesn't work well. Or if we don't have that clear purpose set, okay, well, why do I want to make a change? Why is it important? Why do I need to work on my emotional health? You know, so it's the force down and it's the energy up. And so understanding when we're taxed or when we're drained and when we're fueled, and what we need to do to constantly be oscillating between stress and recovery, basically. So one of the things that I think is a pitfall for people is they say, oh yeah, one day I'll take a vacation. One day I'll recover. I'll sleep when I'm dead. And you know, the research now shows if that's your approach, you're going to be sleeping a lot sooner than you thought. So instead of having this like long marathon approach to life and our responsibilities, it's better to think of it as a sprint. Okay, in my day, where am I emotionally spending money, energy? Where am I mentally spending energy, physically, spiritually? And then how can I recover in micro moments to bring energy back in? Okay, so I gave a lot at work today. I'm saying my family's super critical to me. I come home and I'm a dish rag. So what do I need to do there? Well, we need more physical energy. How are we eating? How are we sleeping? How are we moving? You need emotional, mental recovery during the day. Maybe it's alignment with purpose or scripture or whatever, so that then you can show up and have something to draw from in an area that, again, you'd say is very critical to you. So I think understanding that we're holistic in that sense, it also helps us understand when we're being drained in the different areas, and then look for ways we can fill those tanks back up, not in the massive vacation or the 5 hours of solitude, but in the everyday moments. And it empowers us then to create energy whenever we need it, as opposed to just burning out constantly.
I like that, the 4 dimensions of energy. I think that's good. Like, we live in a time and a culture where I think previous generations kind of thought that, if spiritually anyway, I just have my quiet time in the morning. If I can get my Bible reading and I can get sort of a bit of time alone to pray, then I'm going to be fine the rest of my day. And whilst you will spiritually, because you've worked on that one area, which is vitally important, matters a lot, but then to not think about or not address all those other areas like emotion and the mind and whatnot, I think it's cool today because we've actually got a little bit more data and we've got science around this, and we have research, and there are so many resources out there for people. I just hope that today, this can be an empowering conversation to some people to be like, hey, if you don't have the energy, like, do something about it, and don't be afraid, and don't think that, this is the other thing that is a real bugbear for me, is that people will think that if they're not mentally sharp or they don't have physical energy, that they're somehow less spiritual.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone like that?
Sometimes they just need to eat lunch.
Or go to bed earlier.
Or go to bed earlier. Yeah, sometimes it's as simple as some of these basic things. Again, we think, I don't need that. I'm too busy. I don't have time. And it's just a simple switch of, well, let's just start with the breakfast. Like when I work with folks, we just kind of work our way through the day. Like, where's our trouble spots? Let's back it up and find what is feasible for you to achieve. And let's see, it's an experiment to find what works for you. So if you're struggling to, again, have the energy in these different areas, like, it could be as simple as you need an extra hour of sleep. You're not Superman. I sometimes have my group classes like repeat after me, like, I'm not in college anymore. I can't I can't sleep 4 hours, go do classes, sleep in the afternoon, party all night, whatever. Like that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
We have to recognize we have limits. And this is one thing I think is important. Like we can't just throw on top of all of our other responsibilities, more responsibilities in health and wellness. Like sometimes we have to look at the landscape of our life and be like, do I have space? Do I have capacity? And if not, what needs to shift so that I do have capacity to work on this? Because making a change in your life for nutrition and fitness, it takes mental energy. Again, back to the dimensions. Sometimes it takes emotional energy because we don't really want to do it, but we know we need to. So it's drain. So if we don't have capacity for that, it's going to be very difficult. We're going to fizzle very quickly.
Yeah.
And so we start super basic, maybe with like, let's just figure out breakfast. Or let's get you off 4 cups of coffee a day and get some water in there. Simple. And people are like, this is too simple. This can't be it. It's like, trust the process. Step by step, you're going to build a healthy lifestyle that meets your needs, you can do, and achieves great energy for the things and people that matter most to you. It's a process though, and it takes time. And we're gonna succeed, and we're not gonna succeed. Sometimes we actually learn more from when we don't succeed, and it helps us know what to do next.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. Make healthy easy. If people want to follow you, you're obviously on Instagram.
Yes.
Is there a website?
Yep. So jennabraddock.com.
Okay.
At make.healthy.easy on Instagram, Facebook as well. And those are the main places. If you're interested in the sports, rhythmsportsnutrition.com or offseasonathlete.com.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was an awesome conversation.
You're amazing. Thank you.